Modern Warrior Podcast. Welcome back. We have an extra guest with us today.
Boom! Bang.
Mr. James Stratman, a.k.a. the Viking, a.k.a. the owner of Modern Warrior, a.k.a. the owner of Peak Nutrition, a.k.a. nomad, bike enthusiast, jacked guy, good guy at heart.
This is good. Keep it coming.
Great.
Keep it coming. I like
Give me
these.
the compliments. Give me the compliments.
Welcome on, brother.
Dude, thanks
Welcome
for having
on,
me,
man.
guys.
Yeah, dude, today I think the main thing that is trending in America right now is obviously obesity is at an all-time high. And a thing that isn't really being talked about enough is the rise in pharmaceuticals and different band-aids that we are trying to put on this solution or this problem of obesity in general. So
Cool.
We're going to dive into it.
Do it.
Any initial thoughts or things you guys want to say?
I always like to start with like a disclaimer. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like, okay, we're three shaved apes, like
Yes.
we're dumbasses, and we
Not scientists.
and we come at the world from like our fitness perspective,
Yeah.
right? So I think that it's good to say it in context that it's like there are obviously whatever we talk about, there's places for it, places not for it, but like I do think that this side that we're on is like in American culture is underrepresented. Do you know what I mean? Which
Yeah.
is just like, well, I don't know, like actually working out, eating healthy, and kind of like trying to stick away from things you don't have to take. Like, even though it seems common sense, it probably is the one that is the least talked about. And I just think it's a perspective that does need to be kind of limelighted a little more.
Yeah, why do you think that perspective isn't shined as much as you think it's? Because I would think in my brain, it's like, the people that are in shape in the fitness industry,
you would
like
listen to.
I would listen to them, right? Because
Right.
like they have a physical representation that like, hey, they know what they're talking about, rather than someone who is a PhD but they're overweight.
Yeah.
I
think like all things, it's like, it's not trying to sound corny, but like if it's not new or shiny, people kind of don't want to listen to it as much.
Yeah.
It's just the name of the game. That's why like people get really famous talking about, God, I don't know, like trans issues, right? I don't actually think a lot of people care about it. I really don't.
Yeah.
Like if you
It's
talk
just
to the
this thing.
average person,
Yeah.
it's just like, dude, I don't know.
Don't
Whatever,
care
I
either.
don't care. Like I gotta get to work. Can I leave now? And but because it's like a hot issue, is like people can get real famous saying some spicy stuff about it.
Yeah.
So like if you're talking about medication and all these things, it's like, I don't know, it's flashy.
Yeah,
Just new.
it is. And I think there's a rise in also, I don't know how I want to put it, but, like golden age, eat grass-fed meats
Yeah.
and stay away from oxalates and don't eat vegetables because they're bad. And like,
Yeah.
they're just saying it because it's the antagonist to the thing going on. And
Totally.
it's making them popular right now.
Absolutely.
So now you have two far sides where it's like, pharmaceutical is it, take Ozempic for the rest of your life. And then you have one that's saying, sun your nuts outside, eat nothing but raw beef liver. You get way more multivitamins from that.
Yeah. Right.
And it's like we have this like polar opposite now. And like this side is becoming like more and more popular
You know
as
what?
we go.
Before we even jump into anything else, I forgot who explained it this way, but it's like, you know how it's like social credit rewards kind of work?
Yeah.
So it's like you are credited by your peers by being the most of whatever that side is.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So like, let's say someone like you're definitely more on the like all natural health, stuff like that. But it's like, nobody's going to listen to you unless you're saying, dude, you guys have got to eat raw goat.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And sun your nuts outside. And
it's
like,
so far.
because it's so crazy,
Yeah.
is like the king crazy is going to get the glamour.
Yeah.
But the guy kind of on like, well, I don't know, maybe just, eat normal food. Like,
Yeah.
no, you're just going to get shunned.
Right.
Nobody wants to
What's your stance on? I know where James kind of sits on things with food and whatnot, and we'll dive into it a little bit later. What's your stance on like what is the best diet like for someone or for you?
Realistically,
what's your
like
opinion?
mine is just something sustainable, like carbs, fats, proteins.
That's
Like,
the easy answer, bro. Give me what you would really think.
like honestly, that's where I come from.
Yeah.
And like I don't like all the fads because I don't think anyone actually sticks to them. Keto, carnivore,
Yeah.
paleo, all those things, like they're like the shiny thing like James was just talking about. But then once people do it for a minute and then they come off of it, they gain all the weight plus 10 back, and then they're pissed off about it. So I guess even when I was a personal trainer, I would have clients tell me, "Oh, I'm going to start doing this," and I'm like, "Okay, cool. Let's just make sure you stay with it, though."
Yeah.
And then 2 months later, they come in. They're like, they maybe miss a couple sessions with me, and they come back and they're like 20 pounds heavier, and I'm like,
What happened?
"What just happened? Like, I saw you 10 days ago."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, I started eating donuts. Like, I fell off my keto thing."
Yeah.
Because
Like,
it was too much of a change
Yeah,
for them.
and they're like, "What do you think I should do now?" And it's like, well, let's just get back to eating. You're obviously not disciplined enough to stick to keto. I do think there are some people who do those things and they have amazing results and they
We've
stick
seen
to it.
it.
I see it in the store all the time.
For sure.
But that is, of 100% people doing keto, it's like 5 to 10% can actually stick to it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I just know it's not something you can actually do forever.
Right.
You know, and so I think a sustainable actual diet is the simple answer, but it's also the simple answer people need to hear.
Yeah.
It's like, you need to be in a calorie deficit. You need to eat just these things. Try to stay away. I mean, the seed oil stuff, I do think we should stay away from. But if I can't get you to eat 3 essential macronutrients, I'm not going to be able to get you to stay away from this stuff.
That's like next level. Yeah,
Right.
let's
Like
start
we
with getting
were
your
just talking
protein
about
up.
the other day of like diet sodas. Yes, there's artificial things in them. They're not great for you. But the fact that you're drinking 5 regular sodas in a day, I would much rather you do 2 sugar-free sodas because there's no calories in it. Yeah. And that's a much more sustainable thing because you still like the carbonation. You still like the taste of a soda. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to make you just cold turkey it because you're going to break and then you're going to go through a 12-pack in a day.
You know what I always find funny? I've had this conversation with a bunch of people is like, people when it comes to nutrition or fitness, they really like to be like all in the thing. Like, I'm a vegan or I'm a keto or I'm
Identify as such.
I do this thing, right? But like, there are other things in life that we just don't pick that way. Like when you tell people, if somebody asks, what music are you into? You're like, oh, well, I don't know. I listen to like country, but like, oh, I like this rapper. And like, oh, sometimes I like listen to this weird classical music. You have no problem at all being like, I do all of these different things.
Yeah.
Right.
But the reason I say it is because I remember it being different when I was young. And I felt like when I was in like junior high or something, you were like a country guy and you wore country clothes. And like you were a kid who listened to rap and you like were FUBU. And like you were, do you know what I mean? Like you identified with that thing. But like as time has gone on with music tastes at least, like that just doesn't exist. Like we just vaguely
Kind of got out of that era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and I mean, I'm talking about kids, but even I feel like younger kids, I see kids who are 15, 16, 17 coming into our stores and like, they're just an amalgamation of they're just like, they're not a skater kid. They're not a goth kid. They're not do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, why can't we just do that with everything else? So it's like, I don't know, I just eat stuff. I kind of like chicken pot pie. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think back to your point, I mean, talking about the diet that is sustainable being the best approach. I mean, we just live in a world now where it is the fast option and the instant gratification rules everything, right? Whether that's with taking the easy route of OnlyFans or doing something to make money or, you know, going with the pill that makes you lose 60 pounds, whatever it is. That's a perfect segue into one of the biggest pharmaceutical drugs right now, which is Ozempic.
Right.
Catching a lot of traction, becoming very popular. The European pharmaceutical company Novo Nordic that backs Ozempic actually just...
Did they make it or are they...
I'm not sure if they heavily fund it or if they made it, but I know that is the main company behind Ozempic. They're set to become the highest gross revenue company in Europe, pharmaceutical company.
Jesus.
And what's funny is Europe doesn't even allow their people to take Ozempic. So they're making all their money off of America
Americans.
and other countries and stuff like that, which is very weird to think about. Just knowing that they're kind of, you know, using America
why
to
is
make
it that
all
they're
of
not
their...
allowed to use it?
Well, Europe in general, they don't allow certain foods to come in. They have like over 115 banned foods that they don't allow to be imported into their country. I think because they care a little bit more about health
about
for their
what they
people, right? Which is an interesting point.
Yeah. But about the like company and them being from Europe, it's like, I don't know, it's like U.S. film studios make like half of their money from China, but they're based here. So I don't know. It's like, that's not too fucking weird to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But movies are different than the
But they like
the drugs that you're pumping in people.
sometimes I don't think so, dude.
No?
I think so much of like media, movies that are made, and TVs and stuff is like it defines culture and like what we think
can
is
shift.
important
Yeah.
and like, I mean there's been a huge backlash now about like Disney, and they're very like they're a woke company,
Right.
Yep.
and like all of their like woke movies came out, and it's like, well, clearly, yeah. I mean, the people at the top there, that's what they believe in, and so they're kind of trying to like subtly shift our thoughts and our culture into being like that. Do you know what I mean? So
You
sometimes
sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist right now.
well, I don't think it's crazy conspiracy theories. I just think it's like if you own like everybody who shops at Peak Nutrition or with Modern Warrior, they are like getting a little taste of like what I believe in stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's not because I'm like trying to dictate what people do. It's just like, well, this is mine and this is the way we do it.
Yep.
We have a fucking podcast where we're sitting here talking about it. You know what I mean?
I mean, business itself shifts behavior for its customers and like in a good way, hopefully, right?
Right.
Yeah, in a
where,
good
where
way,
both of us
hopefully.
benefit, the company and the person buying benefits.
Yeah, hopefully
right?
in like a good way.
Right.
I think about that too. Is like how many of our customers, even if I've never met them, they're like somebody who I would hang out with.
Dude,
Naturally,
100%.
because the people in our stores and our team kind of like, I'm not saying they act like me, but like we've rubbed off on each other and we kind of have a way that we do things. So then you get like that type of customer. And so it's like, I'm connecting with people who I'm never meeting through this like medium of an organization.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really weird if you think about it.
Right. Which I
Because-
mean, if that's the whole point is like, I would hope that the companies that are pushing this drug, right, are actually thinking of the best interests for the people.
Yeah, which that I don't know. Sometimes I do think companies get so
gray
big,
area.
or you're in an industry where it's like, dude, what was the family who made God, what's the opioid drug?
Fentanyl?
No, not fentanyl.
Like Oxys.
Yeah, like Oxycontin.
Oxycontin.
Sorry, Oxycontin.
Yeah.
There's like a pharmaceutical company. It's like one family, and I can't remember the name of the family.
It's Pfizer, right?
No. It's like it's a different company, but it's also the company is ran by like a family. It's like this one guy,
Right.
his kids and stuff.
Yeah. Where it's like when he started it, maybe it was for.
And they basically made our whole country become addicted to fucking fake heroin,
Right.
You know, Oxycontin. And it's like, I cannot see a world, like there is a medical use for it.
Right.
If you're in severe pain.
Right.
Sometimes there are things it's like the only thing you can do or you feel like you want to die.
Right.
But also you know how addictive it is and how many people have literally died from you doing this.
Right.
And so
Still on the market today, still being prescribed
yeah.
for. My buddy just broke his collarbone up in Flagstaff. It's still being prescribed to, all the time.
That's insanity.
interesting, you know?
And the or how do you say it? Ozempic?
Ozempic. Yeah.
Is kind of the same thing as like, I don't know, it gets a little gray where it's like, are they providing a healthy solution for people
Yep.
with the best intention at heart? And they're like still willing to like do studies and make sure it's the best thing and like, stay on top of that? Or do they just know that like, oh, you're going to have to be on this for 50 years. And so you're a big fucking pinata that I'm going to keep smacking over and over and over and over again.
And you would know more than me, but what I've read, this is just from what I've seen, is that they did a 68-week testing period on Ozempic before it was released to general public.
Okay.
Is that high? Is that low? Because I generally have no clue.
So this
Is
is
that
when
like a small trial time? Is that?
again, we've kind of talked about this before, is it's like, it depends on what you're talking about, right? Like, there are some things, like because they're a particular classification or type of medicine, that it has been studied in other ways previously, right? So one of the things that we knew a lot about going into it was dextroamphetamines, so Adderall. Well, we actually knew a lot about that because we had literally been prescribing and giving methamphetamines
From
to people.
Hitler times?
Literally the 20s.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we had kind of like 20 years of reoccurring data before, and it's. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I truthfully don't know enough about Ozempic to say like, is it closely classified to like this other drug that we know a lot about, and so you wouldn't
can
need
speed it up a little bit.
a 20-year thing. You just need an intensive 60. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I do think any medicine like that, like 60 weeks, so a year, that does not seem like enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just does not.
Especially for something that's rose to it is now the number one defense for if someone comes into a doctor's office that is clearly obese, or some people that are even just overweight, according to BMI.
BMI.
It is now like, this is the thing, like, hey, we're gonna get you started on Ozempic. It is the starting line of defense for that, which is very interesting, you know?
Yeah. Again, it's tough because it's like, we've talked about this before, but the doctor, like their job is when you have serious ailment to come in and prescribe medicine. So the thing about the whole system, right, is like the doctor should not be your first line of defense,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
That
Agreed.
shouldn't
Agreed.
like that shouldn't be the first place you go to. It's like if you're going to the doctor, it should be bad enough that you need outside help from prescription medicine, because it really does mean like the whole point of the doctor is they're going to give you things you can't get by
They have
yourself.
access to
Right.
these pharmaceuticals.
So it's like, yeah, that's the last line of defense if you really
Yeah.
think about it, right?
Or should
Right.
be.
Should be
Yeah.
the last line of defense. So like a doctor prescribing medicine, it's not, it's hard for me. I'm not like mad at the doctor. Do you know
No.
what I mean?
It's
like
the system.
Yeah,
It's the
mad
system
a
in
lot of the way
general.
the system is that like, are you overweight and now you looked at yourself in the mirror, you're overweight and you're like, I need to get on Ozempic. That's not good.
Yeah.
Right? There's something like, we didn't catch this when you were 250 pounds. We didn't catch this when you were 300 pounds. Like,
Right.
why as a society are we not catching that sooner? Because if there's one thing like being overweight, it's not like cancer. It didn't sneak up on you one day.
Right.
Yeah.
You knew every day it was there.
Right, and I think that's the main thing is like we're trying to put a Band-Aid on the problem rather than like what is the root problem of people being obese at the end of the day. We're trying to just put this thing on it at the very tail end when really like, hey, we should have probably been educating and helping you in this process, before you got to that point.
But then it's like the bigger problem is, how do you fix the problem of that most of the time it's easier to just put a Band-Aid on the problem?
Yeah.
It's like,
Psychological.
that's a big psychological game to play. That how do you actually fix that?
Yeah.
So it's like, so then we can spend time getting mad at companies or getting mad at people and doing these things, but it's like, how do you change normal human behavior, right? Because there's other things, like, again, we're in the fitness industry.
Right.
So for us, no brainer. There's probably a clinical therapist looking at our relationships with our significant others going, you dumb fucks.
Doing this shit all wrong.
You could be doing 9 other things before she wants to leave you.
Right.
And
you're
now
saying
you've got
this
a
is the
problem.
problem,
Right.
yeah.
Now I've got a problem. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. We're pieces of shit too. We're just
Yeah.
pieces of shit in a different area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you fix that? Well, I mean, obviously the fix is get more knowledgeable.
Right. Yeah, and we'll dive into our solution at the end, but I don't think we've ever really gone over like what is Ozempic.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, let's start with
Do you
that.
know what it is?
Yeah, so I mean, from what I've seen, I'm not a scientist. Don't quote me on any of this, but from what I've read from other scientists and people like that, it basically paralyzes your gut.
Okay.
So it slows it down, and you're not as hungry, right? It's supposed to just kill appetite.
Does it shrink your stomach?
I have no clue about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would imagine. I mean, obviously
I know
that would
there is
happen
some
if
kind
you're
of
eating
disruption
less.
going on.
Yeah. So you are. I do know, because one of the things that I was reading about it is like it affects insulin, glucagon, so everything that has to do.
It was made for diabetes originally.
Yeah.
that
So
was the
it really
original
affects that like insulin system,
Yeah.
blood sugar levels. So I'm imagining if that's what it does, then also it does have to decrease your ghrelin, because ghrelin is released based upon your insulin and glucagon when it's released afterwards. So you're not mentally feeling as hungry.
Yep.
It's shutting down your gut, so that way it's probably just not as producing as fast or working as much.
Yeah. So people are literally eating about 800 to 1,000 calories on it.
Oh, is that really? Is that right?
That I've heard.
Yeah.
My mom's friend, I know 3 other people that are around a little less than 1,000 calories.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I
to
didn't know
think.
that it was like that.
Yeah, like it's bad.
Like you barely eat anything.
And you don't feel good either.
And what happens if you eat too much? If you force eat, you just throw up or something, or you get
I don't
sick?
know.
I guess I remember. I don't think
tested
I don't
the
think
limits.
anyone's ever actually tried to force eat. They probably just happy with
With where they're at.
because they're trying to lose
and
weight
they're seeing weight loss.
and they're seeing
right?
results off it.
'Cause-
So they're like, oh, this must be how it's supposed to go. And it's like, again, back to what I was saying earlier. It's like, or you could just eat that way,
Yeah,
or maybe even a little more calories.
I was about to say not eat
not
like that.
800. Yeah, you should probably not be that low, but for whatever your body is. And if you're eating a little bit more than that, and you probably still could have been losing the weight. Not probably, you would have been losing the weight.
Totally would.
And I could see it for a kickstart, right? If you wanted to kickstart someone into losing the first 50 pounds, right?
Okay.
But the problem is they're prescribing it for people and they're telling them this is a lifelong thing, right? This isn't like a 2-month stint where you just get off and you're back to, you lost 50 and you can kind of just start intuitively eating again.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, well, one, when you get off, your gut, there are reports that you still are feeling that exact same effects of being on it.
Okay.
So your gut is almost, slightly permanently like that for at least a couple months after, or depending on how long you've been on it.
Yeah.
Which is a problem because you can't get off of it and just get back to your normal.
And we need to look it up and know a little bit more about it. But like, there's got to be then a massive rebound from it. So if you do get off of it, now you're going back to eating like fucking crazy.
It spikes probably even harder.
Yeah. So the only one that I was reading about it was just from that Peter Attia guy. He's on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah.
And he was, one of the things that he was talking about was just if let's say you were in, and we all know this, but just like everybody else knows it, it's like, if let's say you're at, your basal metabolic rate is 2,000 calories a day, and you eat 1,800 or 1,900, you're going to lose, and it's somewhere like 90 to 95% of it is going to come from fat loss, right? Just over time, consistently, if you're eating that many calories, it's going to come fat loss. Is that these people that are taking Ozempic, is that it was close to like a 60-40, still 60 fat, but of also muscle loss.
Right.
So they were losing a lot of muscle too, which is, sometimes I think it gets, people think like, oh, here's 3 meatheads talking about you want to lose muscle. Whoa.
Right.
It's like, well, it's a little different than that. If you're talking about the average person, it's like, most older people, they die or get seriously injured by just not having enough muscle.
Bone density,
Like,
muscle.
This is what is happening to my mom. Is she has stomach cancer, and just from being so immobile and then not eating because of the cancer. What's funny is if you look at her, there's still like body fat on her, but she has lost all of her muscle mass.
Right.
And so now, like I talked to her the other day, and she was so excited because she got in her car and she drove. She's like, I still can't walk really, but I can like kind of drive.
Yeah.
I mean, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, we're reframing having muscle from being like a gym thing, like a
Yeah.
bodybuilder, to like,
Right.
hey, this is actually just how you need
Yeah.
this amount of muscle to function daily.
Yeah, I think sometimes
100%.
people, they do think of muscle as like kind of like a show thing,
gym Right.
rather than it being like, no, this is like, it's like, your hearing. Like it's a part of how you function,
Right.
or your eyesight, or like getting up and moving around is part of the human experience. And being able to do it like easily and without pain and lasting a full day, those are all like important things.
Yeah. And another thing I'm seeing is that if it is all happening in the gut, right? If there is this paralyzation of the gut, it's working improperly, whatever it is, that's also where all of your happy chemicals are made from, right? So
serotonin.
your serotonin, all those things that make you feel good, there's now being reports of depression being linked, obviously, to Ozempic, right? I mean, for a multitude of reasons, but if the gut is messed up, that's the second brain. So now we're having the second wave of it where it's coming out now, where it's like people are getting depressed, right? Or they are not as happy on it. Who would have thought? But
Yeah, who would have thought
Well, I
that?
guess because and it's even worse because they most likely, if they were severely obese,
they already
they
probably
probably already had those things.
Yep.
And like because of everything that's wrong internally.
Yep.
And then now you add that on top of it,
Yeah.
and it's just gonna 10x it.
it's gonna be a
it's-
tough hole to get out of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's insane. to think about.
I wonder what that actually comes out to be. I would be interested to see, because I'm sure the study was like on a couple of thousand people, right?
It's fairly new.
And now there's got to be millions of people on the drug.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, almost. I think they said 30% of Americans are on it or considering being on it.
30%?
It was high. This is based off of the Tucker Carlson interview with Callie, last name
But
Callie.
on it or considering taking it.
they've either been to the doctor, talked about it, or they are on it right now.
Okay.
That's
So
still 1 in
that's
3
still a
people
very
to
high
even to
amount.
consider
Yeah.
considering it 1 in 3
Yeah.
people, like that's
Right.
ridiculously high.
And we'll
But-
fact check it and put it in the notes.
It would
but
be interesting to see with that bigger population size is like, what is it really turning out to be? You know, what are the other side effects we don't know about, and what do you see from it? But also, you know, I sound like a Nate, like, you know, I'm like poo-pooing the whole thing.
It's a poo-poo topic.
It's a poo-poo topic.
Right? It's just actually how it
It's
is.
like, I remember when I was younger and my like best friend, his mom got remarried to this guy and he was really overweight. And he was just also like, I'm from Missouri. He's like a very like Missouri unhealthy. You know, he like worked all day, didn't eat, drank like a 12-pack of beer at night,
Yep.
ate like whatever fried food kind of thing. Like just all of the bad habits that you could imagine. Do you know what I mean? He was always like stressed out, had high anxiety about everything. He got the lap band.
Oh yeah.
And when
What's the lap band?
that's where it's just like a thing that goes around your stomach so you can't eat food.
Oh, wow.
Like he could literally eat like one egg. And then he was like he would just throw it up.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. But to the credit of, you know, now this is anecdotal, so this is one person, right? But like he dropped, I don't even, you know, I'm going to make the number up, I don't know, but a minimum dropped 150 or 200 pounds, right? He was like sub 200. And he was a tall guy. He was just like a big dude. Then he dropped all the weight, and then he was tall and thin. And then he like joined a rock band. And he was, you know, he's like one of those like at a bar, like fucking older dudes just like
jacked
jamming
now.
out.
Yeah.
But now he's like getting out and meeting people.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, hanging out with other people, and he's not, you know, just like sitting at home and drinking. And he's like, hey, did you know that if you eat, you know, these vegetables like this, it can make a great, I don't know, whatever.
It fucking works.
Well,
In
it did
a
just-
sense.
It like just, he had to have something that dramatic to change something to then see the effect. Like, yeah, if you're really overweight and unhealthy, it sucks to go in public and be around people and have to talk to people because you're insecure and you're over, you know, it just sucks. And I'm sure he hadn't done it in a long time. So there's also the fear and anxiety of being around people.
Yeah.
But then like, then you got this new confidence and now he's eating healthy and now, you know what I mean?
So the actual quality of life went up from this, which is why I think it does make sense that we have these things, but it's probably like 5% of 100% of the people who are using it, it's probably
Yeah.
like
How
5
many
to
people
10%
really need
people
it?
actually
small.
need it
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are success stories like that where someone does it and then they start taking all the correct steps afterwards to keep the weight off. And I'm sure there's people who can actually come off Ozempic and maintain what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's still so early, right?
Right.
Yeah.
There has to be a way to do it. Like there shouldn't be a reason you have to stay on it.
Yeah.
Besides
And-
keeping the weight off.
And that's a good point because we said that out of all the people that are on it, how many actually need this to start?
Right.
Right. It's a very small percentage. We were talking before this. It's maybe 5-10% of people that actually need this harsh, you know, shot every week.
Yeah.
Right. What it is. My problem is how much it's getting pushed in the through the media channels and stuff like that. I mean, Oprah and Weight Watchers. Oprah's endorsed Weight Watchers for a very long time. Now, Weight Watchers, who used to be a very like accountability brand, like you have like points and stuff like that, and you know to eat the way you want. Now they just paired with Ozempic, so now they're pairing their Weight Watchers with Ozempic. This is like a new program, and now it's being pushed. I just saw it the other day. This is whether it was an AI video or not. I did see it. Oprah was saying that being on Ozempic, you do not need to be eating a strict diet or anything like that. You can enjoy your ice cream and all. It's very being pushed like you don't need to diet because you have this pill now. And that's where I have the problem because we're not, now it's like, fuck it. You can eat how you want and lose weight?
Yeah.
And now you're not even teaching them the good habits so that if they did come off, there's no way.
Yeah.
They would just keep going down that rabbit hole, which is what I have a problem with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of all these media channels, and now they're just being pumped with like, are you overweight? Are you tired? Are you sleepy? Here's the pill. It's like, well, that's just all of America. So now
human.
they're seeing this and they're like, that's probably the route for me.
Yeah. Well, so we were talking about this earlier. Is like, I've said this before, and I do not have I can just perfectly see, right, how you could find yourself a little overweight, maybe a little social anxiety, whatever, and we allow our insurance companies to subsidize healthy food, meal prep companies, food programs, whatever, a gym membership, a personal trainer, whatever, right? Even a little bit easier access probably to like therapists and mental health stuff too.
Yeah.
And that just seems like such a fucking no-brainer.
Right.
To
Like you could
do
make that change tomorrow.
Immediately.
Yeah, that's
and
the
people are like, oh, well, you can't have insurance companies, like giving money to trainers and gyms and stuff like that. And it's like, well, but Pfizer is just a company. Like it's just a fucking, it's no different.
Yeah.
Right? They just make a different product. And so we could do this and it would be like we were talking about this before. So if your options are, I have to pay money and work really hard and do extra stuff that I don't really know how to do. Most people don't know about fitness and nutrition and things like that. So it's like they can't even really see it as like an option.
The value is so low.
Do you know, it's like, no. But then this option is like, well, my insurance covers it. It's
quick,
fucking
fast,
quick,
I heard
whatever.
Jenny lost 20, so
There you go.
might as well.
They're obviously going to pick that one.
Yeah.
But I think that if people really had the option, like you went to your doctor and like, hey, we could put you on a prescribed plan. You've got Aetna insurance. This allows you, $400 a month in personal training and nutrition. Is like, I'm sure Ozempic is $400 a month if it's a new product or whatever.
It's pretty
I'm sure
pricey.
it's what it fucking is.
Yeah.
Okay, we did that. And then the local economy gets better because we're paying money to like, gyms or local trainers and
We're getting healthier.
we're getting
right?
healthier and like you're eating better food. It's like if people saw those two and actually they were an option for them, I bet you most people would pick that one.
You really think do?
I think they would.
I guess, and it's part of another one that we talked
Diego has
about.
no faith in humanity.
I guess at this point, no,
He's a nihilist.
because we were talking about it a couple of episodes back of like how easy life has gotten for people. Like
Yeah.
we're not out chasing our food, hunting it down, killing it. Like you go to McDonald's, you pull up to the drive-through, right? And it's that easy now. So I just think we're so accustomed to the easy route.
Yeah.
I think that they need to show, not like scare people, but show Ozempic these are the side effects if you stay with it.
Yeah.
That would never happen, though.
The side
Then they lose
effect
money.
of the other route is you have to be consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, this is for my actual health. These are the problems with it. And I think if they were to actually put everything, positives and negatives, out in front of people, then I would say I could see more people doing this one.
Yeah.
But I still see, if it's like same value for both of them, this one you still have to put work in. This one you still have to show up to the gym. This one you still have to make your food, eat
Yeah.
it, whatever. I don't know. I guess I just don't have that much faith in people. It could be that.
I think if your insurance subsidized part of it, people would want to like take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like one thing people do really like is like, we know a lot about this again, is like the social credit of stuff. Like everybody does actually want to like do the work and eat healthier and work out and stuff because they want to look at other people and be like, look how fucking great I am.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
They do want
Human
that.
hierarchy.
But what they don't want to do is like have to like it's it's expensive. It's like you're paying money to be miserable.
Yeah. Okay.
People don't mind being miserable, but they're not going to pay extra for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, but if you made it to where it wasn't any more expensive than eating at fucking Popeyes or like whatever else, is like I do think people would.
Okay.
Or okay, not everybody, but I think a lot
have
more.
more.
I can see that percentage going up.
Yeah.
I just don't see it being. You said a lot of people or most people, and I'm
think-
like, no, definitely not most people. I can see like a third.
The reason why I
people.
say that is like, okay, I went to high school in a small city in Germany, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's called Mannheim. It's the name of the town that I was in. And like they had obviously created social structures in Germany that made this like to where it was like the thing you do. But I'll give a couple examples. You could go to the local grocery store, and when you got a beer there, you would just bring the bottles back and fill the beer up with new beer without having to buy new bottles. So it
Bad.
saved a ton for like environmental reasons.
Right.
And like you would be completely ostracized if you didn't do that. Like it's just like it would be
The way it was.
Yeah, it's like the way that exactly the way that it was. Also, if like you bought Colgate, right, the like toothpaste, they had to take the box there right in front of you to recycle it, and the company had to recycle it. But it's so everybody did that, so you never went home with like boxes of things ever.
Yeah.
Also, like of course some people are going to eat unhealthy, but like I remember being with like my host family that I was with, and like they were just amazed at the idea of like me being an American and eating like food out of like not from your home.
Yeah.
Right? They like make such a bigger deal out of like things being all natural and like having grains and fiber and you know what I mean? Like eating protein and like, but it's like a cultural thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it really was a big fucking deal. And I think a lot of that stuff also happens in other countries too, where it's like, they've like discussed it, like looking at like American fast food.
Yeah.
How could you?
Right.
It's like, there's no reason we couldn't be that same way too.
And that's kind of where I was going to lead it towards at the end, because like we want to come up with some kind of solution here. We're not here to just bitch about the problem and not give people some kind of solution, or what at least we think would help people at the end of the day. So it's like, if Germany had a strong culture and it led them to being a little bit better in this area, guess what? American culture can also swing back towards a certain way if the people were aware of it and actually wanted to make change. And I think number one way to shift culture is to start with your community.